Welcome back to another We Ourselves video. Although we reached the end of the Ahsoka series, before I move on, I want to take a little time to talk about a few of the characters that I feel were underutilized within the show. And in this video, I will focus on the character of Morgan Elsbeth. Most of these comments were recorded or formulated around the time that I did my review for the 7th episode, but having watched the finale, I feel most, if not all of my comments are still relevant. So having said that, let's dive in. One question that everyone had as we watched the series was why Morgan didn't look like the other witches or Night Sisters. Well, apparently, once you're elevated or your status is raised and you're given more access to the dark magic of the Night Sisters, that elevation also changes your face and gives you more of the distinctive features and scars. While it was interesting to have that glimpse into the Night Sister culture and practices, we didn't get any more depth about Morgan. She's on her ancestral homeworld, and she's also encountered the pure genetic representation of her mother species. In a sense, these women represent the real Night Sister culture. They are the real thing, in other words. So what's it like for Morgan? How is she dealing with her ancestral people? Because they have been preserved for what looks like thousands of years. Is she excited about that or awed? Did she tour the temple? The character states she toured the temple, but why couldn't we see that? There aren't any personal moments with any of these characters except for Ahsoka and Sabine. I'm not talking about full sub-story lines or sub-story arcs. I'm talking about little breathing moments where we get to see a little bit about who these characters are. How does Morgan feel about the Night Sisters? Is she starting to make evaluations on whether she can trust them or not? What does she think about their deal with Thrawn? Does Morgan care that she's on the outside of that discussion? Instead, the show never did anything with her character. All we saw was Morgan in her favorite pose. It's really a shame because, like I've said before, with the Andor series, you would get those character moments. For example, the 3rd episode of Andor concluded with a wonderful montage called Past and Present on the soundtrack. The camera switches between long character takes as they process what has happened. We see the characters contemplating their individual situations and futures. It's an example of superb editing and visual storytelling. The Ahsoka series, on the other hand, desperately needed similar visual character moments, but sadly, that was missing for Morgan Elsbeth and others. This is one reason why I felt Thrawn should have been in his study on board the Chimera with the holographic images of Ahsoka and artwork from her species floating around him. That would have been a true Thrawn character moment as we see him contemplating and planning out his next move. Again, the lost and unrealized potential of the show is just staggering. And speaking of lost potential, actress Claudia Black has a lot of experience with genre television, including the Stargate SG-1 series, which was a favorite sci-fi television show of mine. However, I first saw her in the excellent Farscape sci-fi series. If you've never seen Farscape, I really urge you to go and watch that TV show. It has some of the best written sci-fi characters for television in a long time. The show follows the main character, John Crichton, an American astronaut whose shuttle tumbles into a wormhole that transports him into another part of the galaxy. He's caught up in an escape attempt by a group of aliens, and much of the show is about him finding a place among these beings, one of which is Claudia Black's human character, Officer Aaron Sun. The reason I mention this show is that at the end of the very first episode, after we're introduced to all these new alien characters, there's a series of scenes in which you see each character in a character moment that helps to establish who and what they are. Any interaction between Morgan and the Night Sisters could have been very illuminating about who these people are. At least some questions could have been answered and other more intriguing ideas presented, things that a future season could have explored. Were the Night Sisters who journeyed or fled to the main Star Wars galaxy considered the lost ones? Was there a schism among the Night Sisters and the ones that went to the other galaxy were escaping persecution in this galaxy? I mean, consider this. What would any modern culture's reaction be if they, proud of their ancient history, were confronted with actual living, breathing ancestors who could answer all their questions about their ancient civilization, as well as provide them understanding about the universe as they saw it? This is Morgan Elsbeth. And like her, people in the real world would have a million questions. The first being, what the hell happened to your culture? Why are the cities abandoned and crumbling? Yet Morgan doesn't seem interested in any of these questions, despite having an obvious reverence for the proud history of her people. Don't get me wrong, I wasn't looking for complete sub-story arcs. What I wanted was the show to fill out this universe by relating it all to Morgan's character. And because we did not get these moments when Morgan is finally killed at the end of the season, there's no emotional impact for the audience because we never get to see inside her head. We're talking about a show that literally takes place in two separate galaxies. If there was ever a Star Wars show that needed something more along the lines of what Andor did with its characters, it was the Ahsoka show. That's my take on the underutilization and characterization of Morgan Elsbeth. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.